marvelous hello, friends and loved ones. How are you today? You know, that's a question I've been asking for the past 2 years now. And today, I'm gonna answer that question myself. I'm doing pretty great, because 2 years ago today was the release of my first video. 2 years ago today, I stood in front of this camera, a little too close to this camera I might add. I had my ceiling fan on and I really didn't know what I was doing. But I wanted to tell you all what I thought about the N64 classic, Glover. Well today, I wasn't really sure what to do for my 2-year anniversary. So, the more I thought about it, I thought to celebrate my 2-year anniversary, let's put our fingers into Glover 2. That's right folks, Glover 2, the unreleased sequel to the 1998 platformer. While this game was never officially released, the beta build of it has been on the internet for quite a few years now. So naturally today, I won't be reviewing a completed game, but I'm going to be going over a couple of fun things the beta had in store. The game opens up with the wizard from the first game on a nice relaxing fishing trip, before cutting back to our titular hero and his bro chilling out and enjoying having the house to themselves for a while. You can even play a video game in the very first room. It's a pretty decent little Space Invaders clone. As soon as you run into your brother in the kitchen, you'll quickly notice that this game already has more dialogue than the first title, which was told almost entirely in pantomime, and that they're going for more of a Banjo-Kazooie-esque theme with the voice clips. So your bruv glove sends you off on a fetch quest to get a tomato, a mushroom, and an onion for a special pie. Personally, I think that sounds like a terrible pie, but hey, in the immortal words of Glover, I love pies me. I think the script for this beta may have also been in its early stages of development. And once we exit the castle to the garden area, I'm happy to say that after all these years, we can finally put the question, who even are you, swinging chicken? To rest, because Glover 2 has given me that answer. Bam. She's the hub chicken, and she's here to dispense wisdom and advice to aid Glover on his new quest. This little fetch quest does serve as a good tutorial for the game. It has players familiarize themselves with the ball carrying mechanics from the first game, and even introduces mixing items together in the cauldron. I assume this would have been a bigger mechanic in the final game, since several of the areas just have this dude hanging out. But once you've got all the items for Brother, he hurls himself into the cauldron, once again transforming into the evil Cross Stitch, before stealing the wizard's spellbook and flying away.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out.
Returning outside, the hub chicken gives you some exposition. Apparently with the magic from the spellbook, Cross Stitch's evil plan is to make everything in the world left-handed. What? That's so despicable! You know what? I'm gonna write a note so I don't forget just how diabolical that is. It's begun! From here, the game opens up a bit more, and we get some ideas as to what this game was going to be centered around. Each major area seems to have 5 runes that need to be collected that play the role of the Jiggies, or the stars, or whatever you want to call them. You can also collect tokens that allow Glover to cast spells, such as summoning a rubber ball to him. And these rank up tokens that, I actually have no idea what these do. I do have to say, I really like the direction this game was headed. Unlike the first game, you don't have to constantly carry the ball with you, but the mechanics of rolling it around to activate switches or break barriers is still prevalent. It feels like a really nice middle ground between classic Glover and other, less frustrating platformers of the era. Also, Glover finally has means of defending himself that don't involve chucking the ball at people. Now, with the simple push of a button, Glover can turn into a boxing glove and just
pow right in the kitchen.
To really explore more of what Glover 2 has to offer, you can return to the file select screen and press the L button, which opens up a list of areas you can instantly travel to. Some of these areas feel a bit more fleshed out, like the Fairy's Glade, but as you get a bit further down the list, you find yourself in areas like this.
Going nowhere, going nowhere.
The beta even has a couple of nods to the first game. You can encounter our friend the Ugly Clown in the city streets where he asks Glover to help him gather up his balloons, presumably to earn a rune. And in the museum stage, we even see the skeleton of the T-Rex boss from the first game. He may still be dead, but skeleton seems like a step up from the smoldering pile of shoes we left him as back in Glover 1. At this point, I just had fun jumping from area to area and trying to get a feel for what sort of goals the final game would have had to offer, and where the story would have gone. At one point, you end up in the location of the wizard's fishing trip, but later you receive a phone call from Cross-Stitch implying he'd kidnapped the wizard at some point throughout the story.
I don't think I can help you with that.
There are even a couple of boss fights in the beta, including one pretty cool junkyard robot mantis thing. Clearly it wasn't very far in development, as you can't kill the boss, nor can it move, but it's still kind of awesome. There's also this pirate on a shark boss that I assume was supposed to be a race or something, but I couldn't figure it out. This one is stupid. Overall, I'd say the areas in Glover 2 seem to have a lot more charm and imagination than from the first game. You can just tell in some of these locations. There's a cottage in the swamp that's made entirely out of meat, where Glover needs to steal a meatball for some reason. There's this Eastern-style observatory, where a guy asks you to carry his eyeball to the telescope so he can see the stars. And there's even a level called Dance Arena. There's nothing here, but it's called the Dance Arena. And I demand context. There's this one room where a snowman asks you to recreate his friend, and this was a pretty fun little game. I think I did pretty well. How about you? You're welcome! So that's just some of the stuff I was able to find in the Glover 2 beta. The game is obviously unfinished, but just based on what I've seen here, they were clearly fixing a lot of what didn't work in the first game, but still keeping the overall Glover feel. I think if it had come out, Glover 2 probably would have been overshadowed by other platformers that were coming out around this time, but even so, I think we missed out on what could have been a great sequel. And who knows what that could have done for the Glover brand. For all we know, he could have gotten a semi-successful spin-off on mobile devices. Or, you know, something way less depressing than that. So the question you're all probably asking now is just why did Glover 2 get cancelled? Well, to put it simply, Hasbro was dumb. In their quest to buy up multiple studios and brands, Hasbro was actually one of the biggest game publishers in the world at one point, but a series of bad investments put them at an annual loss of over $75 million. It seems they also overestimated the demand for the original Glover, since, in an attempt to get a better deal on its production, they ordered 300,000 copies of the game be made, rather than the normal 150,000.
And that's why, to this very day, you can find $6 copies of Glover at your local flea markets and/or retro game stores. It's also probably why, even back in the 90s, it was one of only 2 games Little John could afford for his freshly purchased N64.
Overall, I had fun with Glover 2, and it was certainly interesting seeing what sort of stuff it had in store for us. If you're interested in giving it a shot for yourself, the beta is available online and can be played via emulation. Who knows, you could probably find some neat stuff that I completely missed when I was playing through it.
And with that, I think we can go ahead and wrap this episode up. Wrap up 2 years of videos. I still can't believe it's been 2 years. I want to thank all of you for just being here with me. I've hopefully gotten better at making videos, I've learned a lot about making videos, and I've grown closer to all of you over these past 2 years, and I also just hit 1,000 subscribers, and I can't believe I've already gotten there. Thank you all so much for everything. I love you. Look, what do you want from me? It's my 30th video. Seriously, you should all know what's in store by now.